Here is one NBA rule that I cannot stomach, and that's the 65 game rule. When the NBA introduced the 65 game rule, you have to play 65 games to qualify for most improved defensive player of the year, MVP, all NBA selection. I looked at this rule as the Zion rule because Zion is supposed to be this superstar guy that takes the league by storm. And he was on that trajectory. He was hitting strides, but continued to get injury after injury after injury, which just somewhat held him back. Let's just say that. And they put a ton of stipulations in his contract to make sure that he meets a certain weight class and plays a certain number of games to get compensated. So that's that Zion rule. And the same thing applies to the 65 games, in my opinion. I think Adam Silver and the NBA, they looked at it like, hey, you guys want to load manage. You don't want to play 60 games. You want to play 40, 50 games to get ready for the playoffs because the regular season doesn't matter. Okay, let's find a way to punish you. Now, some people won't call it a punishment because they're like, hey, these are NBA players. You are getting paid millions upon millions to play the game. The game of basketball. This is a game. People pay memberships to gyms to play basketball, and you guys get paid to do it. So if you don't want to show up to work, then you won't get paid. Now, it's a difference between someone not showing up to work, like, hey, I'm not going to practice today. I'm skipping the game because I want to be out on the strip. I want to be out on vacation on my time doing my thing. That is absolutely wrong. But if you have a guy who has prepared his body, prepped his body, prepared for the game, doing his best, giving his all of this effort to these organizations, but let's say he hurts his knee or his foot or his wrist or his neck. Oh, he's out. And now this guy has been playing at a all NBA level, but he is no longer qualified to make a all NBA team because he didn't play 65 games, even though he played 40 games and he played like an all NBA performer. Those 45 or 50 games or 55 games. But since you had an injury, you're no longer qualified for all NBA. And now your contract is up and you are not qualified for the max. See, I just don't like that rule. I don't like it at all. And the reason why I don't like it, and I know this video is titled and it's about the defensive player of the year, but this has a lot to do with the defensive player of the year because Victor Wembanyama was slated. And when I say slated to win defensive player of the year, it was already settled. Okay. It was written in the sand. No, it wasn't written in the sand. It was written in the concrete. Okay. That Victor Wembanyama will be defensive player of the year. He was playing at an amazing clip. And one of the issues I had with Victor Wembanyama coming into his rookie year, I was wondering like, hey, can this guy be a good defender for real in the NBA? Can he? And he proved me absolutely wrong. He can be a great defender in the NBA. Even though I had him winning defensive player of the year his rookie year, I was still questioning, couldn't he really be a good or like a real elite defender? And he was. He had problems with continuing to jump, trying to go for every block. I didn't think he was that great on the pick and roll. I think he was excellent at taking up so much space. He's 7'4", right? He's able to recover so quickly. In some cases, he doesn't even have to jump, as we saw this season. Like, Victor Wembanyama just improved as a defender in year two. He's not jumping for everything, great at recovery, great at just taking up space and just deterring people from even going or thinking about going to the basket. He did that in year one, but he was doing an even better job in year two. But now he's out, he's injured, and he's no longer qualified to be a candidate for defensive player of the year.
Wells, crowd wants it 3 seconds, gobbled up by Wembanyama.
I'll be out there stuffing my face for you.
Thank you. I was worried you weren't going to eat. Wembanyama rejecting Jackson Jr., the former defensive player of the year. Morant, 3. No good. Edey there for the offensive rebound. Wemby stole it, threw it back in, right to Edey though. And Edey, no good on the dunk. And then Wemby blocked another shot. But Baines somehow hits it. Gets it back, deciding what to do. 6 on the shot clock. Kicks it out. Jackson Jr. blocked by Wemby on the 3. Laravia threw it up, no good. Edey couldn't catch the lob from Morant. Morant mad that he threw it so badly. Edey missed it. Jackson Jr. And Wembanyama met him right there. Edey dives. Kennard, 3 seconds. Edey down low, swallowed up by the Spurs.
When you look at this historically, we have seen NBA players play less than 46 games and still make All NBA. Gus Johnson in 1965-66 only played 41 games.
Johnson is out of there. No, his head up by the rim. Sweeps down the defensive rebound.
You said pretty good player. No, Gus was better than that. He was a great player. He was unbelievable.
Chris Webber in 98-99 only played 42 games.
Oh, Webber got O'Neal to lead us. Oh! Chris Webber with authority!
Scottie Pippen in 97-98 only played 44 games.
3-on-1 with only best back. And Pippen slams it into space.
LeBron James in 2020-2021 only played 45 games. Of course, we know that was the pandemic year. I mean, coming out of the pandemic and all of that stuff. So, of course, we have to include that.
Keefe, corner, LeBron. Make sure he's behind the arc. Oh, he turned the other way. He turned the other way.
Turn around. As soon as it leaves their hand, look at the bench.
Alonzo Mourning, 98-99, only played 46 games. See, we have so many players throughout NBA history who made all NBA teams without playing at least 65 games.
Oakley and Mourning have at each other.
And both of those guys will not play in Game 5.
So I wonder if the NBA is going to go back and just resend all those all NBA selections and defensive player of the year as well, because Alonzo Mourning, that same year that he played 46 games, he won defensive player of the year. My thing is, if you have been the best defender for 46, 50 games, you should still qualify to be able to make an all NBA selection, especially if that injury happened when you were on the court. All-Star game. Come on now. Now, if this was a situation where Wemby was in the middle of San Antonio up on the interstate on a dirt bike doing flips and he got injured, okay, that's different. That's different, of course. Okay, he shouldn't qualify, but actually going out there and trying to be a productive NBA player, and now you have to suffer for doing that, is just insane to me to think about. Now, since I say that, we now have the runner up for defensive player of the year, and that is Jaren Jackson. Jaren Jackson and the Memphis Grizzlies, they have been playing great. Ja Morant, when he came back this season, I said, of course, this is a revenge tour. Ja Morant will prove to every single person, every single critic, that he is the guy in the face of this franchise. And he will help this team, of course, get back to the playoffs. And they are going to make the playoffs. And Ja has been he hasn't been as assertive going into this season. He's playing more like a point guard, not being so free flowing. Let me say that when it comes to getting his shots up, getting to the basket, even though he's still getting to the basket at a high clip. This is not the same Ja Morant we saw in 2021, 2022 season, where he averaged around 27 points per game. This is a different Ja, but Jaren Jackson has been probably, some people can argue, the best player on the Grizzlies this season, and his defense is great as well. Being able to guard guards and switch and guard a guard on the wing and switch on the pick and roll and recover and block shots. And a lot of criticism around Jaren Jackson is, hey, this dude always gets fouled out. And that's not the case. Jaren Jackson is not fouling out 30, 40, 50, 60 times a year. Okay, it's just not even 10 times a year. That's not happening, Jaren Jackson. Jaren Jackson is a solid defender. And if you are a good defender, there will be times where you get into foul trouble because you are giving a ton of effort on defense. Not saying you don't know how to play defense, because let me say this. In some cases, you can be a defender and just don't know how to play defense and get all of these ticky-tack fouls. Of course, you can blame that on the league rules, or you can blame it on the defensive player. It can go either way. But Jaren Jackson is a solid defender, and one of the reasons that he gets fouled is gets all of these fouls, maybe 4 or 5 a game, whatever, 3 a game, is because he gives a ton of effort on the defensive end. Jaren Jackson, even though he is a great defender and has been a great defender throughout his career, won Defensive Player of the Year already, I don't have him as my defensive player of the year. I give that to Lu Dort. Lu Dort, I think, should be defensive player of the year. And this all depends on what you value. If you value a big who can switch on guards and protect the paint and block shots, yes, you will pick Jaren Jackson. But if you are somebody like me and you value a wing defender who can guard the best players on a game in and game out basis, which is Lu Dort, because there's not too many bigs that are available, that are really a threat. You have Nikola Jokic, Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid, Şengün, Victor Wembanyama. You have about 5 people who play in the post, and Joel Embiid, Anthony Davis are currently injured. But you don't really have that much to worry about. But when you are a wing defender, you have to go up against James Harden, Trae Young, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, LeBron James, Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving. It's just a host of players you have to go against. And Lu Dort, every single game, he gets the assignment of the best player on the court. And he does a pretty good job at that. A job at a high level. And the thing around NBA media is like, hey, team record matters when it comes to picking awards. My thing is, hey, Lu Dort, he is currently the best defender on the second best team in the NBA. That should matter, right? But no, it seems like it doesn't matter. Lu Dort should be in the running for a defensive player of the year, or should win defensive player of the year, because he is spearheading that defense. And people can say that, oh, you know what? It's only because he has Shea, he has Jalen Williams, Caruso, who hasn't even played that much this season, Chet, who hasn't really played that much this season either. I mean, he just has a good defensive team, right? That's the only reason he's a good defender. No, he is the spearhead of their defense. And I know a lot of people bring up defensive rating. Defensive rating, to me, it's a good thing, but I don't really want to have my defensive player of the year solely on defensive rating, because Shea is leading in defensive rating, but Shea doesn't guard the best player every single night. He's not doing it. Okay, here are the defensive ratings for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Shea, number 1. Jalen Williams, number 2. Carson Wallace, number 3. Lu Dort, number 4. Aaron Wiggins, number 5. But when it comes to defensive rating, I think defensive rating is heavily influenced by the team's dynamic and the defensive capabilities of your teammates, not necessarily the best defender on the team, because Lu Dort guards the best player. Shea doesn't guard the best player. Carson Wallace doesn't guard the best player. The assignment is given to Lu Dort, and he does a heck of a job at that. But shout out to Dean Oliver, who introduced this in 2004 in his book, Basketball on Paper. And he broke down how you go about the defensive rating. So defensive rating is opponent points divided by possessions times 100. And you can see how they actually calculate this from field goal attempts, free throw attempts, offensive rebounds, and turnovers. So they include all of that to get a defensive rating. So it's good to look at that on papers. But if you watch the games, and I know you guys are watching the games, Lu Dort is the best defender every single night. And I can argue he's the best defender in the NBA. And I'm not sure if I'm the only person that sees this. If you watch Oklahoma City play, you see Lu Dort gives a ton of effort on defense, and they call so many ticky-tack fouls for Lu Dort. Am I the only person that sees that? When Lu Dort cuts his man off, or gets in front of his man, or just gets a little physical with the person he's guarding, foul, foul, foul. I'm like, can we just please let this man play defense? Because he's a great defender. He just beat his man to the spot and you called a foul. So the effort that Lu Dort gives on defense is worthy of Defensive Player of the Year this year. And especially because he's on the best team, right? He's on the best team. That has to count for something. You know, if you're on the best team, you have to be in the conversation, right? You have to. So Lu Dort, put him in the conversation.